Hey there, this is K4A, Knowledge for All educational video channel. In today's video I will try to explain how and when to use GameMaker GML visual block, which is called Jump to Start. So far in our game which we are making, we have recently added some kind of green enemy square which goes left and right in reverse order when touching the blue and red squares in the top of our game screen, and our game player is white square which can collect some kind of um, yellow gold coins and so on. We have score, health and lives as user interface, and that's it. That's not too much, but our game is progressing, and what I want to add today is some kind of interaction to our green enemy object, which is our enemy, and I want to make it behave that way that when the game enemy touches the game player, so when the green square touches the white square, I want the white square, the player, to restart itself to come back to starting position. So far when I touch the enemy square with my white player square, nothing happens, and that's because we haven't added code. We don't have code for that kind of interaction. We'll do that now, but I want when this collision happens, I want my square to jump to starting position. Starting position can be, for example, somewhere like this. Okay, so first of all I will move my white square more into the center of the stage and then I will think about it, how to add that kind of interaction. First of all, we have learned that before, any kind of collision, any kind of touching one object with another, to another, colliding or overlapping or so on, is called a collision in game development, not game maker only. So I have to find some kind of collision event to define collision between white square and green enemy square. So because we have two objects colliding, white square colliding with green square, I can do it in two ways. I can add code to my white square and say, okay, when you touch the green square, the enemy object, or vice versa. I can add my code to green square and say it, okay, when you touch the white object, the player object, the white square. So that's something which you have to divide in your head, in your mind, in terms of how logic works. It works in on every kind of object, game object you have in your game. So in this specific example, we have two objects colliding, so you should think of them as two persons which have both of them have equal rights. So one can say, okay, I am the green person and you're colliding with me, and the other white can say, okay, I am the white person, you are colliding with me. So you can code both of them, any of them, and it depends on what you need in your game. Sometimes you will code, if you try to be your game to be as fast and as productive as possible, you will try to have as less code as possible. That means that if I have, for example, like 50 or so enemies, I don't want them all of them to be checking collision or something like that. Maybe it's smarter to do it only from my player perspective, or vice versa. Maybe it's not smart for my player to check 50 enemies around it. It's maybe faster for game engine to check any game enemy from game enemy perspective and so on. So we will I will show it. It's simple and fast for how it's done in both ways, but just it's something to be aware of. Okay, so in last video we have added some kind of collision for OBJ enemy to collide with the restart and exit button, and now I will try to find my OBJ player 2. It doesn't have any kind of collision, so let's start first with it. Let's try to find collision with objects OBJ enemy. And what do I want? Yeah, I already done that before, it seems, maybe as a practice. So I will delete it, yeah, and that's why GameMaker remembered this block, so don't think it will happen to you also. Anyway, I have added the collision event, then find OBJ enemy or however you call it, and then find movement group of blocks, and one of those says jump to start. Drag and drop it to your left coding window, and there isn't any kind of option by default on it, but you can click on this drag and drop arrow. We will do that later, but let's see what will happen with this code if we leave it like this. So I have added code to my OBJ player and said when you collide with this green enemy object, go back to your starting position. That's what I want to have in my game. Yeah, let's see if that works. So when I touch the green, yeah, it works perfectly. So it's yeah, I even talked too much. That 6 minutes, 7 minutes, not bad. So anyway, you can see that it restarts my player to my starting position, and it can be good enough for some of your games which are simple, and there are actually lots of games which have those kind of avoiding obstacle game, and when you touch it you go back to your start. So if you, for example, have 10 or 15 obstacles on your screen, it can be really annoying to always go back and restart from the start again and again. That's it for this video in the basic form. I will try to add some kind of other mechanics or complexity now, but that's it for this block in terms of it's simple as that. And again, I will now disable this one, disable, here it is, just to show you that this was the option where I have coded this mechanics, this action in my player object, in my white square. But let's try to do it with the green square, because I can define collision from that perspective. So this time I will say, okay, I am the green enemy, I am colliding with the white square. Let's define what happens when I collide with the white square. So again, I am selecting the green enemy, OBJ enemy now, trying to find collision. Here it is, collision event. And then what do I want to collide with? I want to collide with OBJ player 2. Here it is, simple as that. And again, there is some kind of code which you won't have in your on your screen, but I have it because I have already tried that a few moments ago before shooting this video. And again, I will now try to act as nothing happened here. So we have a clean slate, we have a blank coding window, and I want to find the same block which I have used a few moments ago. It is one of the movement blocks, and it says jump to start. So the problem here will be when, because it is in this code is on the green square, now instead of white square player moving to the start, the green square will snap to the starting position. So you can see how it goes in the middle again. So I don't want that to happen that way. It can be maybe useful for some of your games, but what I want to do here is to click on this arrow here which says, okay, what do you want to collide with, what do you want to apply this code. Do I want to apply to self? That is the default position and default state, and that was the green enemy. I don't want to do that. I can do it, apply that to all the other stuff, and now it will be applied to white square also, because white square is in that circle of all the other objects. So yeah, you can see. So we have coded these mechanics for white square from the green square. That's what I wanted to show you, just to feel that as to understand that as an option, to feel that sometimes as maybe escape route when you don't know how to code some object, but you can try to code it from some other to try to make some kind of connection, if you can see it clearly. And again, this other means all the other objects in the room except the green square, because other means every other. Not only that, I can use also all. Again, that means all the objects in the game, but that other and all can be tricky, because if you have different lots of different other players or enemies moving on the screen, you can have some accidents on the screen when other or all objects touch this enemy, so they will be restarted to their start position. You don't want to do that. You most of the time you want to be as specific as possible, so you can click object, a specific object, and find obj player 2. So now we have used objects, apply this to object, which object, obj player 2, and now it will work only and only for obj2. So again, we have coded some kind of mechanics, some kind of action code for player object, but we have coded it on the green object, on an enemy object. And I think this one is smarter because it puts the pressure, it puts the code. This time we have put the code into the enemy, which will be probably not so many of them on those first levels, so they can do the execution of the code. But if I try to code to put code on this obj player 2 on my player object, that maybe will work if you have simple game and a couple of enemies. That's not bad, but imagine you have like 50 or 100 enemies different, and you will have like 50 or 100 collision to code here in obj player, which will put a lot of pressure on obj player from GameMaker perspective, from a game engine perspective, and the game maker will have to calculate all of that all the time, because your player is all the time on the screen, and for some enemies it would be faster because not all of them will be visible all the time on the screen in first level, and so on. So it's always about logic and what costs you more or less in terms of game engine execution, and how much pressure you put on it. So those kind of stuff you will learn them again through experience, trial and error. And it's always simple, it's always logical, but again you will make some kind of errors, and from time to time repeat them. It's nothing serious or something you should worry about up front. So you will worry about that when you face that problem. So I will now delete this obj enemy collision event from my obj player 2, because I don't want my obj player 2 to be crowded with so much code. Instead, I will have this obj player 2 collision on my obj green enemy, so it will check instead. And what I have added here before was a couple of other stuff and code which you can add yourself 40 minutes. Okay, I think we will do that in a couple of minutes, and that's it. Earlier in our tutorials we have learned how to add some kind of health, lives and score variables which will to our game, which will show up in top left screen. So I will push this blue button a little bit to the bottom, so you can see in top left screen we have variables, we have text for lives, health and score. So we can now try to add this to add more interactivity to this collision here. Like when the collision happens here between enemy and my player, I want my lives to go -1. So I have 3 lives on the start, and when I touch it I want to go 1 lower, so 2, 1, 0, and that's it, game over. So we can do that, a little bit of that now, and all I have to do is find those variables, and they are somewhere closer to the bottom. Yeah, I think the group is called instance variables, the group of blocks, and try to find the set lives. Why? Because what I want to do here is when I touch this green enemy with my white player, I want to change the lives variable, and the change is called set. So the get is when you call it, when you take that information, and set is when you change that information when you set it. So for example, set it to 1, set it to 2, set it to 3, set it to 100, and so on. So you're setting, you're changing the value, and get it is like taking it from the computer, from the game maker, like saying, okay, how big is the lives number, how many lives do I have, how big is my health or ammunition or score, and so on. So when you call get, you are calling for information, and when you call set, you are setting the information you're changing. So I want to set my lives when, and when do I want to do it? When I touch this green enemy, and when I restart again from the start. So I want to set my lives to what? To -1. Let's try with that. And first of all, it won't happen. It won't change anything, I think, on the screen right now. And why is that so? Again, the same stuff, but I wanted to show you how it can be easily, you can easily forget about it. Lives are not changing, and I don't have any kind of interaction with lives variable. Why is that so? Because I am currently where? I'm currently in obj enemy, and that obj enemy, he doesn't know anything about variable lives, health, and so on. Those variables are defined here in my obj game manager, as you can see in my create event for obj game manager, health, lives, score, and so on. So I would have to tell my enemy, or to be precise, I would have to tell to GameMaker from my enemy object, okay, set lives, but where? Apply this to where? To other, to all? No, to specific object, which is called obj game manager, because that is where my lives variable is. So I will now change that variable, but again I made a mistake. Not a big one, but again, just to show you, for some of you who didn't watch previous video, you can learn it again now very fast. So watch now at the lives. Currently there is a number 3 there, and now -1. Why is that so? And is that some kind of error on GameMaker Studio, or is it on is it my fault? I think it's my fault, because GameMaker did exactly what I told him to do. Set lives to -1. I don't want to set lives from 3 to -1. I want to subtract -1 from current value, and current value is 3, so -1, it will be 2. If I do that again, it will be -1, it will be 1, again 0, and so on. But I have to tell GameMaker to do that in that way, so I have to say it, okay, do it relative. Relative again means change, make a change relative to current value. Current value is 3, so minus 1, 3 minus 1 is 2, 2 minus 1 is 1, 1 minus 1 is 0, 0 minus 1 is minus 1, and so on. So you can go this endlessly, and we will probably stop that there. So let's try the game again, and now I will restart from my to my starting position, and lives will go from 3 to 3 minus 1, which is 2. Great, it works. Now it will be 2 minus 1, 1. 1 minus 1, 0. 0 minus 1, minus 1. This isn't good, this isn't realistic, at least for most of the games. You don't want this kind of behavior, you don't want to go less than 0 lives, so when the lives is 0, stop the game, the game is over, and that's it. Again, that's another topic, that's another video tutorial. I just wanted to show you here how you can quickly build upon on your games, and from going with something simple as jump to start, restarting your position, you can also try to add more interactivity, for example by setting your lives to -1 or health or score or something like that, and that's realistic game programming. You will use that in your games, so it's not something irrational, I don't know, but for this specific game block, GML visual block, jump to start, I don't have any kind of better example than which I just have showed. The easiest and the smartest, the most possible way to use it is to reset your player or something like that when you collide with the enemy or die. Reset to your checkpoint or starting position, and that's it. I don't see any kind of other smart use or realistic for game development. Maybe I'm too tired to think about it. If I come up with something new, I will type that in comment, or you can do it yourself to share some ideas where you can use this. But yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, a couple of other stuff which I wanted to do also is that I wanted to. Oops, 25 minutes. Okay, I wanted to just that, and it's finished. I wanted to move these two buttons out of the screen so they are not visible. It's not. It will be much prettier this way. And again, because I have moved them off our game screen, that doesn't mean they're not active, and you will see that in few seconds. They, as long as they are visible in my room, anywhere in the room, they GameMaker sees them as alive, sees them as something which you should it should use in a game, and so on. So this time my green square will bounce off the blue square and red square, but because they are out of the screen, it looks like it is bouncing out of some invisible barrier. So it's for me so far it's just prettier that way, and so you can see your lives user interface and variable clearer, so you can see how it changes from 3 to 2, 1, 0, and so on. That's it for this video. It was actually very simple and easy block to use, but it took me too long to explain it because we have added different kind of interaction and mechanics to our game. That's it for today. See you soon in next video.